In this video, I will demonstrate that for Russia to become a highly industrious and wealthy society, it must install alarm sounds into its language. So let's have a look at alarm sounds in nature, and then let's compare these alarm sounds to the alarm sounds in languages of rich and productive countries, such as, for instance, in the German and English languages. The first example is an alarm or distress call produced by a magpie bird. Next, we have a distress call or alarm sound produced by a rat. The next example of a distress call or alarm call is that of a koala. And the final example is that of a cottontail rabbit. We can see that the distress or alarm sounds have a lot of similarity to that of a human cry or scream. And here is an example of a human scream. When listening to or when producing distress or alarm calls, we become somewhat distressed or alarmed ourselves. In fact, alarm or distress calls automatically prepare us for fight or flight, where a person or animal becomes more alert, focused, and attentive to the environment. Here we have an example of such behavior in a deer, where it's listening to distress calls, and you can see how its head is raised so it can see better. Ears are also raised to focus on the sounds. Its eyes are widely open to maximize its vision, and its movements are nervous and very alert. The question then is, can such distress or alarm calls exist in languages such as, for instance, German or English? The simple answer is yes, they can exist in less extreme form. So normal alarm or distress calls sound like ah, ee, ow, I, a, an. However, the less intense version of these distress or alarm calls are a, ow, I, a, an. So let's look at some examples of German words where there are this type of alarm sounds.
Eins, eins, zwei, zwei, drei, drei.
Here we have the first three numbers in the German language. Eins stands for one, zwei stands for two, and drei stands for three. Part of the word eins is ein, and that part is the distress alarm call. Ein, 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 ein. Also, the numbers zwei and drei have the I distress or alarm components. German language has a significant proportion of words with such alarm parts in them, and these sounds make the German society more focused and attentive, just like the deer in the following video is more focused, attentive, and alert to danger when listening to distress calls. On the other hand, Russian language has relatively small amount of this type of alarm sounds, and the alarm sounds are less intense than in the Germanic languages. And it is hard to believe that this is the reason why Russian society is somehow less able to develop a highly organized, industrious and wealthy society like Germany or United States. To demonstrate this lack of alarm sounds in Russian, let's compare the alarm sounds of a Germanic language such as English to that of Russian. And here is a text in Russian and English side by side, with approximately similar meaning. In each passage, the alarm sounds are marked in red, where the intense alarm sounds are in bold red. In this passage, English contains 72 syllables with alarm sounds out of a total of 121 syllables, while Russian contains 26 syllables with alarm sounds out of 167 syllables. In this case, alarm sounds occur in about 64% of English syllables, where 20% are intense alarm sounds. While in Russian, alarm sounds occur only in 16% of syllables, where just over 1% are intense alarm sounds. In short, there are a number of reasons why Germanic languages, such as English, has a higher frequency of alarm sounds, where alarm sounds are often more intense than Slavic languages such as Russian. Firstly, the vowel sounds in English are often long and often pronounced as diphthongs, which are alarm sounds, while in Russian, the vowels are short. A number of Russian vowels are slightly diphthongized, where the first vowel is a y glide. They are alarm sounds, but rather weak alarm sounds.
A, O, I, U, Ye, Yo, You, Ya.
Secondly, English has frequently occurring diphthongs, which are often long, as the first vowel in the diphthong is strong and long. These sounds are all alarm sounds. In Russian, on the other hand, diphthongs are relatively rare and quite short, as the first strong vowel is always short. Thirdly, Germanic languages such as English contain two sound combinations that create intense alarm sounds, which do not occur or are rare in Russian. The first one is that there are many instances where a nasal or lateral sound such as N, M or L follow or precede diphthongs or vowels in syllables. Lateral or nasal sounds acoustically are valve-like sounds, and they contribute to make the alarm sound longer and thus more intense. The second is when long valve-like sound combinations are between consonants or consonantal clusters in a syllable. These increases the alarm or distress intensity of the sound, as the native speaker produces valve combinations in high pitch in order to preserve air in the long syllable. An example would be the word quite. The intense alarm sound is why. How would we install alarm sounds into Russian so that it would contain more alarm sounds with higher intensity? The way to do it would be to install alarm sounds into the most frequently used words in the language. Here is an example of how one would add alarm sounds to the 10 most frequently used words in Russian language. In summary, it is well known that Russia has amazing potential with its amazing culture and incredibly talented and creative people. With the adaptation of alarm sounds into Russian language, Russia will become perhaps the most prosperous and advanced country in the world. If you would like to investigate this idea a little bit more closely, please check one of my book versions on the topic. Evolutionary Alarm Sounds Within Languages is the first version. Frighten the World into Prosperity is the second version. Motivate Poor Countries to Develop is the third version.